to Prince Charles when, and it may be, and let us hope, many, many years hence when that moment comes.
They are coming round towards the waterfront now. Look at everyone flocking to get a better view. They go from one corner to the other. Nicholas, you've toured for, what is it, the last 13 years with the Queen. Does she create this hysteria absolutely everywhere?
Most places, yeah. You know, I suppose the place where people don't perhaps flock out in quite this way is actually the United Kingdom, because I suppose people get a little bit blasé. Oh, it's not quite, oh, it's the Queen again. But no, in Europe, it's interesting. In those countries which used to be monarchies, I've seen her in Italy and in France and in Germany, they are massively interested, and I suppose that is the aura and the mystique, not just of the monarchy, but particularly of this monarch. And certainly in the other countries, Commonwealth countries, in Africa, in Asia, Canada. She was there last year in Canada. Huge crowds again, and I think, as we were saying earlier, responding to this sense of presence that she brings, sense of history, and people are turning out for it, as they are here in Perth. And well, there we are. Look at that. That is the scene, the tens of thousands, as you were saying, of people turning out and just waiting, and it won't be long now. The sun is beating down and the barbecues are starting to warm up, I dare say.
Well, we'll be getting hungry as soon as we can hear all those sausages frying and smell the scent that comes across here. They are on Riverside Drive, so they are not far away. Nick, just tell us, from a movie buff point of view, I'm not sure whether you're into movies or not, the King's Speech, that gave us a little bit of extra awareness about how the royal family works and what a difficult job it is to be born into that.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? She has enjoyed the film, so we are told. She, I think, has been touched by the portrayal, particularly, obviously, of her father, but of the role that Lionel Logue, the speech therapist, played so wonderfully by Geoffrey Rush, who she met in Canberra just a few days ago. It was very nice for both of them, I'm sure. But yes, it gave an insight into the struggle that her beloved father, George VI, had to wage, stepping unexpectedly and unwantingly into the role of monarch after the abdication of Edward VIII in 1936. Huge struggle for George VI, Bertie. And, you know, it's interesting, I think the Queen has so modelled her approach to monarchy on the approach of her father, George VI. And George VI felt, I think, the need to redeem, in a sense, the monarchy after the stain that they felt had been left by Edward VIII running away from duty. Duty is everything to this family. If you do your duty, you are doing the right thing. You are justifying the very privileged position that you have in society. So, yeah, that film has reminded us, or perhaps told us for the first time, a little bit of the background, the family background of this Elizabeth II, who we are about to see in a few moments, arriving here in the centre of Perth. And there the flags are waving away still. Australian flags, one or two perhaps British flags I think I saw there, but what is that?
That's the Black Swan, that's for Perth.
Right, okay, now forgive me, that is my ignorance, I must apologise, but of course it is, yes.
Well, there we are. You're a fair way from home.
Waiting for a long time, but it won't be long now, and yes, and the bells are still ringing.
Indeed they are. It's quite phenomenal that people would stay out for such a long time in order to get the best view. It just marks what a unique occasion this is.
Yes, you know, I think it's a lovely day. Who knows how many years it might be before she does return to this city. And again, it is that sense of living history. One is witnessing history when one sees her. You know, even as you mentioned, I've been doing this, I think, for 13 years, and you still do when you see the Queen. There is still, gosh, that sense of, wow.
And there is the convention centre.
Yeah.
Where you've been attending some of CHOGM. That was a beautiful opening ceremony we saw.
Yes, and you know, I thought it was rather interesting, the Queen's speech in these just moments before she does arrive. Let's just think, because of course her role as head of the Commonwealth is really the one serious global role that she has, as it's not a constitutional role as head of the Commonwealth, but it is one that is terribly important to her. There were only 8 members of the Commonwealth when she came to the throne. There are now 54, only 53 here because one country is suspended. But it is something that she has nurtured, and she has worked very hard at it, particularly back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, when there were difficulties obviously over the apartheid regime in South Africa, and she acted really as a bridge between some of the black African leaders and the white Commonwealth, and she cares deeply about the Commonwealth. And I thought that her opening speech yesterday was quite explicit, actually, in the way that she said, look, come on, Commonwealth, you have got to address the issues now. You have got to be bold, and you have got to rediscover a sense of vision for this organisation. Now, whether it is going to do that fully in the way that the Eminent Persons Group wishes it to do, we will perhaps discover today. But the auguries yesterday weren't terribly promising. It was rather overtaken by the story about the line of succession. But the heads of government are hard at work at their retreat today, so maybe they will come up with some substantive and substantial things, which will please the lady who we very shortly will see.
And I think we'll hear much more about that human rights story, but that's a phenomenally large job, Nick, to stay in touch with all those various countries. Of course, back in it must have been about 1921 or so, the British Empire covered a quarter of the Earth's surface, so it's by no means that large anymore, but it's a lot of work, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, it's enough work being head of state of one country. You know, people think that, well, what does it involve? But she is so very conscientious, and she does take this role very, very seriously, certainly.
Indeed. Well, the Queen is almost at her destination. Among the many thousands of people here, there are some lucky West Australians who will get to meet her. Of course, there's nothing to worry about from a protocol point of view. It's a piece of cake.